The coffin arrived sealed, stamped with orders never to open it. But Black history has never been written by those who follow orders meant to protect injustice. On September 2nd, 1955, at Illinois Central Station, a wooden casket was unloaded from a freight train coming north from Mississippi. It was large, heavy, reinforced with boards, nailed shut, marked with official state seals. The smell came first: mud, water, death, before anyone said a word. Inside was Emmett Till, 14 years old, a Black child born into a country that had never decided whether Black children deserved protection. 2 weeks earlier, Emmett had left Chicago smiling, joking, carrying a suitcase and his mother's warnings. His mother, Mamie Till-Mobley, had raised him in the North, where segregation wore a quieter face. She tried to prepare him anyway. Be careful down there. The South is different. Be humble. Say, yes, sir, and no, ma'am. Don't look white people in the eyes. These were not lessons of childhood. They were lessons of survival, passed down through generations of Black families since slavery, Reconstruction, Jim Crow. Warnings inherited, not chosen. Emmett promised he would be careful. He didn't fully understand what that meant. No 14-year-old ever could. Now he was back in Chicago in a box Mississippi authorities wanted buried quickly, quietly, unseen. No funeral, no viewing, no witnesses. The same strategy America had used for centuries: erase the evidence and move on. Mamie Till-Mobley refused. "I want to see my son." Officials told her it was better not to. The funeral director hesitated. Everyone in the room knew what was inside. They believed mercy meant silence. Mamie believed mercy meant truth. "If you don't open that casket," she said, "I won't sign the papers." A hammer was brought. The lid was forced open. The room recoiled. Mamie stepped forward alone. What she saw was the brutal result of a system older than the nation itself. Emmett's face was shattered beyond recognition. One eye gone, his skull crushed. A bullet hole told the end of the story. His body carried the unmistakable signature of racial terror, the same violence that had enforced slavery, policed segregation, and disciplined Black bodies for generations. His crime was allegedly whistling at a white woman. Maybe he did. Maybe he didn't. It didn't matter. In the racial caste system of the United States, Black innocence has never been a defense. 3 nights earlier, Roy Bryant and J.W. Milam had dragged Emmett from his great-uncle's home at gunpoint. They tortured him for hours in a barn. They shot him. Then they tied his body to a cotton gin fan with barbed wire and threw him into the Tallahatchie River. They believed the river would swallow the truth, but Black history has always flowed back to the surface. Emmett was identified only by a ring on his finger, engraved with his father's initials, proof that even in death lineage remains. Mamie Till-Mobley stood over what no mother should ever have to see. And in that moment, she made a decision that would alter the course of American history. She could have closed the casket. She could have protected her son's image. She could have chosen private grief. Instead, she chose collective memory. Let the people see what they did to my son. At Robert's Temple, Church of God in Christ, the funeral lasted 4 days. The casket remained open. No makeup, no reconstruction, no softening of the truth, just a pane of glass between America and its own reflection. Between 50,000 and 100,000 people came. They wept, they fainted, they stood frozen. Black parents saw their own sons. Black children saw their future. White America saw, perhaps for the first time, the cost of its comfort. When Jet magazine published the photographs, the image traveled everywhere. Barbershops, churches, kitchen tables, union halls. It crossed borders and generations. That photograph became one of the most important documents in Black history, not because it showed death, but because it exposed the lie that racial violence was rare, the lie that it was exaggerated, the lie that Black suffering was invisible unless convenient. 2 weeks later, the killer stood trial. An all-white jury, a segregated courtroom. Emmett's great-uncle Mose Wright stood and pointed directly at the men who murdered his nephew, an act of courage that defied centuries of terror. The jury deliberated for just over an hour. Not guilty. They laughed. They celebrated. They walked free. But they had already lost, because a few months later, a woman in Montgomery refused to give up her seat on a bus. When asked why, Rosa Parks said, "I thought about Emmett Till, and I could no longer back down." That open casket became a spark, not the beginning of the civil rights movement, but a turning point when silence became impossible. Mamie Till-Mobley spent the rest of her life speaking, teaching, testifying. She understood something essential about Black history. It survives because ordinary people refuse to forget. Her son did not die in vain because she would not allow America to look away. Black history is not just dates and laws. It is mothers making unbearable choices. It is truth carried in bodies, photographs, names spoken aloud, one open casket, one mother's courage, and a nation forced, finally, to see itself. We're thankful to everyone learning and remembering with us. If you'd like to support the page, please subscribe,